Do you find yourself caught in the cycle of always wanting more? Today's episode is entitled Embracing Enough, and it's all about being satisfied with where you are and not always in that relentless pursuit of more. How are you doing today, Kat?
I am pretty good. I feel like I'm still waking up, but I'm here.
That's good. We appreciate you showing up. It's always good. I like the energy. You got a nice relaxed vibe going. It's all good. So we were talking about this before we jumped on the show, and embracing enough. What does that mean to you exactly?
I think it means finding contentment with what you have. I think the root of a lot of people's unhappiness is that they always want something different from what's right in front of them. And if we can learn how to appreciate what we have and to want what's already there, that is a very good way to lean into more joy and happiness in our lives.
I like that. I like that viewpoint. It's kind of that grass is always greener on the other side mindset of whatever I have. It's almost it's like you don't value it enough because you have it now. So you're not pursuing it. To me, embracing enough means stopping and being okay with an amount that isn't more. And there is a place for that. I mean, like we're meant to evolve into this a better person. We're always growing. That's what we're all about. But to me, like embracing enough is being able to leave food on my plate because I'm full, or not even full, but like satiated or satisfied. And I mean, we even talked about using the term satisfied in the title, but it just didn't have the same alliteration. So we went with embracing enough, but it's, like there's that mindset of, okay, well, if I have a bag of chips, like it says, I can't eat just one, but the truth is after like 4 or 5 chips, I'm not really tasting it anymore, but I just want more because I have access to more. And so to me, part of embracing enough is being able to say, look, I'm not, at least in the food sense, when I'm not hungry anymore, I can stop. My plate doesn't have to be cleaned. I can stop at half the chocolate bar. There's all these, but it's a lot of like little, fake rules in my head with that stuff. And at the same time, there's that other part of enough, which is what's the next thing I should get? What's the next thing I want? And kind of finding that balance.
I think that's natural, right? And I mean, studies show we get a dopamine hit when we buy something, when we scroll, we get all of these little like hits to the pleasure centers of our brain. And that's why there's such an overconsumption problem, especially in North America. And, just one of my like big icks in this life is just going to the mall. And it's not just the crowds. It's just like overconsumption on display. And of course, I like to buy things every now and then, but I have like developed such a discipline of saying, no, I already have this in my closet. Or, for example, I just sold something on Poshmark and Poshmark said, oh, I can, deposit the money into your account for the sale, or you can use it to buy something else. I'm like, oh, well, that could be a good trade. I sold something and then I could pick something new out. So I'm very big on like thrift stores, and I get really overwhelmed with clutter. And as good as I am, as frugal as I am, as disciplined as I am, I was so overwhelmed with all the overconsumption on display when I moved out of my house and downsized to an apartment this year. And bless Andrew, he helped me with that process. And there just came a point where we were just bringing boxes from the garage and putting them on the curb from the trash man. I mean, I thought I was good. And then I was sort of faced with like, sis, you are not as good as you think about not over consuming. Why do you have so many Halloween skeletons? Why do you have so much Christmas stuff? Why are all these shoes in a box still in the garage? And I'm really trying to limit the amount of things coming here, because not only is shopping and collecting things a dopamine hit, but then you have to like actually deal with it and store it. And that creates a lot of stress in people, which makes it really hard to be happy. So overconsumption applies to food. It applies to purchases. It applies to like health, you know, I mean, it applies to so many things. And we're not saying to like never have a good time. We're just saying that regulating it could be a pathway to a more content life.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. And you always make it sound like you had like this, you know, hoarder's garage worth of stuff that I keep
like
feeling
it.
like we had like levels onto this garage, and it really wasn't that bad.
It was a 5-story garage. Lengths deep. I know, but it was a lot. And after I moved, I can't believe how many times I thought like, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have a garage anymore. I didn't realize the mental weight that knowing I had to go through all my junk in the garage was having on me. I didn't realize how often I was thinking like, oh, I should really go through that garage. And apparently it was a lot because it took a couple months of living here in the apartment to be like, sis, you don't have a garage anymore. You got rid of it, you know? So I think these things weigh on people more than they realize, and you won't realize it until it's like gone.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is something to be said about when we're embracing enough. Things are always that one that seems very obvious, and food's an easy one. Another one for me is embracing enough is activity and time. And I feel like I need to be bored more often is kind of the lesson I've been taking from what I'm learning about. And it's being able to remember that we weren't always go, go, go. Even like us kind of, you know, proactive people, there were a lot of times when we just sat around and were quote unquote bored, where you didn't feel like reading a book and there wasn't a thing, there wasn't, you know, social media and a million ways to distract yourself. So part of it is feeling like enough to say, you know, I'm just going to sit here and be with my thoughts without feeling like I have to learn something, take action on something, do something with the kids, go somewhere, shop, whatever. Because I believe like embracing that mindset of like, no, this is good. This is enough right now is a pathway to happiness and ultimate success. When you can look at what you've done in a day, or you look at a room or yourself or whatever it is, and you're like, this is enough, and I'm good with enough.
Yeah.
It really does change your mindset. You know, I don't have those moments too often. I'll be completely honest. I'm coming at the base of the mountain, not from the top on this one. And like all things, but I really do feel like when you can look at it in a way that makes sense to you and going, look, I'm enough and I'm okay. That's really what's going on, because the thing that you're trying to find, the activity you're trying to do, that food to put in your mouth because you're not really hungry, but you don't want to waste food, but you don't want to put it back in the fridge for tomorrow because you don't like leftovers. These are all little rules that you've got going on in your head that are forcing you beyond enough. I think as humans, and as you know, I've been learning about biohacking and stuff like that. And one of the things that I'm really trying to get my head around is that if a little bit is good, a lot doesn't necessarily make it better. And, you know, and it's finding that balance like that. Like, look, if you don't get enough water, you're going to have a whole bunch of issues. If you have your 8 glasses or whatever, you know, to stay hydrated, that's good. But if you have too much water, you'll drown, or you'll give yourself you'll have some like really severe health issues. You can get that from even too much water. So I always like to kind of think of that analogy of like, where am I on this scale? Am I on the enough in the middle, or am I, you know, very depleted, or am I going too excessive with my behavior?
I think that's a good point. I think food and health and eating, you know, it's the same thing with exercise, right? Like exercise is good for you, but hyper focusing on it, hours and hours and hours in the gym every day. I mean, you can overdo just about anything, even things that are good for you, right? I mean, if left to my own devices, I could just read and listen to books all day long, but then nothing would get done. And that wouldn't be good for everybody that I'm, you know, responsible for. We did a podcast episode recently where I was sharing about like a no good rotten day that I had. And it started because we took a walk and there were all these beautiful houses in the neighborhood. And I got really upset because, I felt like I wasn't giving my kids like the best life possible. I feel like I had it, then I got divorced, then I had to like downsize, and I wasn't seeing this move to the apartment as the positive that it was. I was really getting into my own head and getting into a comparison trap. And as we joked on that podcast episode, Andrew even bought me a Chick-fil-A cookie, and like nothing was getting me out of the funk that day until I went back to sleep. But I share that, and I'm resharing that, I guess I should say, today, because I wanted to reiterate that this is something we are still working on too. I am still working on being like, no, I'm really happy with the place that I am in today. I am doing better than I was before. I'm doing financially better than I was before, even though on the outside it may look like I don't have as much as other people. I'm currently, in a mode of, saving and building things for the long term. I think that we need to give ourselves more credit, and I think we need to express more gratitude in order to feel content.
I like that. I was thinking comparison, that you slipped into a comparison trap, and I just love when you use the same words that I was thinking of. But
it's we share a brain, you know that.
yeah, exactly. I really do think that it's a powerful thing to step out of the looking. No, that's a bad analogy. So I'm going to come up with something probably worse because I'm, how I am. But it's. I always use the expression, it's good to step outside your painting so that you can see it. And so often we forget to, and you look around it, if you can look at yourself objectively and see that you are doing things from a perspective of not being your best self, meaning like you're in a comparison trap, you're believing what other people are saying about you, you're trying to impress people. All these things are just foundationally bad for your happiness. They're just gonna poke holes in it. So embracing enough, and it reminds me of the Saturday Night Live sketch with Al Franken. He was Stuart Smalley, and he would look in the mirror, and every time he would look in the mirror, it would be like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and dag nabbit, people like me, or something like that. Yeah. And it sounds corny because, it's SNL, but there is something valid about that, to be able to look at your life and go, this is pretty good. In fact, it's enough. Yeah. And I still want things. I can want things. We're not vilifying that, but wanting them for the sake of feeling it, it's a little more from your soul and from who you are than wanting it to fill the space, to get the dopamine hit, to do all these things. Those are very different places. And that's what we teach in our coaching, is like, you have to come from the inside out and stop going from the outside in, because nothing out there is going to make you feel enough. I can sit next to you, Kat, for the next 20 years, and I probably will. But if I tell you you're enough every day, it doesn't matter. You have to buy it. You have to believe it. Everybody has to really buy into the sake that they are enough. And when you get to that, that's where true happiness starts. I'm not going to sit next to you for 20 years saying you're enough, but I know you're going to.
How about 50 or 60?
I'll do the rest of my life. That sounds good. But I'm not going to say the same word over and over again. I'm really hoping that, we adopt that'd be
boring. That. Yeah. Well, I want to give a good example of how we would help someone with this in our coaching practice. So we do coach people here at 5U, and we use our framework, the layers of life, which you can go back and listen to I think it's our second or third podcast
episode.
I really should look that up. Where we explain the layers of life, but really what we're teaching with this process is how to live your life authentically. And the way that you do that is you go deep within yourself, you start with your inner layer, your soul, your spirit, your true preferences, and you make decisions from there rather than from the outside in, which is societal expectations and the checkbox thing. So in this situation, if I was coming to Andrew and I was like, I, feel like garbage today. I took a walk and there's all these beautiful homes and I'm feeling like the worst mom. And I feel like I let my kids down and now I'm in this little apartment. Andrew, as the coach, could come to me and say, take some time and pause and look within your deepest layer and tell me, what do you really want for your home? Where do you actually want to live? And I would say, honestly, I really like my smaller space. I don't know what got me thinking about these big houses and stuff, but when I had a big, beautiful, Pinterest-worthy house, it was so much to keep up. The property taxes were so expensive, and it felt so overwhelming. It felt like the kids were like far away from me. It felt like we were in all these different areas of the house, and I love keeping my, the doors open in this apartment at night and like hearing their little sounds and breathing and knowing we're all like cocooned in. And even as I'm saying that, I'm letting a deep exhale, and it's like, these are the types of exercises we go through in coaching, and Andrew and I consistently coach each other. But having a coach walk you through these types of exercises and these questions can actually show you either one, that you are actually living the life you really want, or two, it can reveal things about your hopes and desires and preferences for your life that you might not have even realized you had. And from there, we can take the next steps to implementing and taking to action and helping you become your best self. So that's just a little example as far as, overconsumption. What I actually do like the little apartment. It just takes some mental exercises and some thoughtful time to actually reach that conclusion.
Yeah, it does. And let's be brutally honest with this. We've been conditioned our whole lives to believe that, bigger is better and more is needed and all these things. So when you decide to stop walking with the masses in the direction that everybody else is going, it's going to feel weird. It's going to, and you can be great for weeks, months, years at a time, but once in a while, you're going to have that. You're going to have that thing that kind of just gets that little barb in you. And you're like, oh, that hurt. Why am I feeling like this? And it's because you have a neural pathway that's, showing you're not fitting the norm. That's why having a community is such an important thing, of people that go, yeah, I may not agree with, the less is more kind of mentality, but I encourage you to be your authentic self. And that's really what we're about, is, acknowledging that you are answering your soul's purpose in this lifetime, and that doing that is a day by day activity, and you have a lot of undoing to do. And I think a lot of times I know for myself, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for you on this, is it's a lot of good days, but then you have that other day where it's, you're with other parents at an activity, or you're in an airport and you see people with all these things that you're like, oh, I want that. And then you kind of feel bad for wanting it, because you're like, but my suitcase is good enough. My headphones still work. Yeah. My phone still does the thing. Like my watch tells the time like it's supposed to. There's nothing wrong with what I have. Yeah. And you might have that little guilt about it, but it's okay to want those things. It's just finding that place where it comes from a true purpose, rather than how most of us are living, as we all, go through, like, as we all walk with the crowd, we're not really thinking about it. So we're all living life accidentally. And we are really about showing you how to live life on purpose. And when you do that, life is better. It just is. So when it comes to embracing enough, your enough and my enough are very different. Yes. And that is okay. And, and it can be, it's not necessarily just a stuff thing. It's, you could want a whole bunch of things, and I might want, very little, but there's one aspect of life, like tech probably, that I want way more because that's me.
Well, it works the opposite way too, because one of my closest friends is building her dream house right now, and her husband love entertaining, and they've been so bummed out because they've been in this little house where they could only invite another couple over, and it kind of spills out to a tiny backyard, and they can't wait. They are so giving and generous, and they love hosting people, and that is their joy. They're building a bigger house so that they can, love on more people by barbecuing some more ribs,
Yeah.
And they're thrilled, and I'm so happy for them. And just to say that we're not against buying things or having beautiful things. We are simply trying to encourage people to embrace what they have, appreciate what they have. Look, Sarah Blakely, the billionaire founder of Spanx, still uses her original Apple iPod. I had to get the right words. The original Apple iPod to listen to music on airplanes. She's very sentimentally attached to it, and she can buy anything she wants. So I love that. And I love that she has a little emotional attachment to the iPod. I'm like, what's it called? iPod.
The iPod. That click wheel is so satisfying. I get it.
Our kids will never know the pain of having to, roll your finger around to find your song. Yeah. You can't just ask Siri for it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, I get that. But that's just it. I mean, hopefully you don't have to, get to billionaire status if that's what you want.
Sure.
But most of us don't need to go that far to start realizing and going, I like simple things, or I like very elaborate things in this area, and that brings me joy, and that is my purpose. Your friends that, like hosting barbecues, I'm like, great, I will show up, but I probably will never be the one to never have that barbecue. I've done that, and while I liked doing it,
we will treat you all to dinner at a restaurant, but please invite us to the barbecue.
So much easier. I think it's just being truthful to yourself with that, and looking and also not criticizing others for their path, which we don't do. We always accept people where they're at because that's how we want to be treated. And to acknowledge that difference, and that difference doesn't need to be us. It's not looking at them going, well, then there needs to be, then I should be getting a bigger house, or I should be doing this, or I should. And it's like, wait, do you want to? Not should you? Do you want to? Is that really what you're all about? And, I have, my mom and dad are a great example of embracing enough. They have this lifestyle that they truly enjoy. And, they like fishing, they like the cabin, and, they like their books. And
they like their home that they lived in for a long time.
Yeah, they've been in that since before I was born. So 3 whole years. No, I'm just kidding. That joke was really bad. Anyway, but there's something about that where it's, when you get around people that are embracing their enough, it's refreshing, because you start to realize that so much of your mind chatter is really been telling you that you're not enough. And when you can accept yourself, there is this sense of calm and inner peace that comes around that goes, you're good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go get another book. Maybe I'll get a this or that when I feel like it, but I'm good. I'm happy. And isn't really that the point of life, is to find you're happy and live it?
I think so. So what would you tell somebody would be a good action step after listening to this episode, and they're thinking about the topic, and they want to be happy with what they have? What do you think is a good first step for somebody?
I think reflecting on, maybe what they are doing for others, and what is truly for themselves. Of course, we always offer that intro coaching call if they want to talk with us and see if they want to join our program. And that's complimentary, as we can help people. And I think that first step is just asking the question is this really me, or is this what everyone else thinks I should be? And it's a hard question. Not a lot of people ask it, but the ones that are brave enough to ask it are brave enough to take that step towards their best version of themselves, towards their 5-year you. And that's when the journey is so much nicer, because you're living in authenticity. You are breaking away from the herd mentality that you went with because you didn't know any better. And it's okay to have done that. But when you start to realize that you might be living in a way that isn't congruent with your lifestyle, just having that moment of awareness changes everything. Yeah. And then having the next step is, finding your path. And you're always finding your path. And that's the beautiful part about it.
I love that. I think that's really good advice. And honestly, I think it's a good place to put a pin in the episode and move on to our glimmers. And our glimmers are happy, fun things that we like to share. It could be a book we're reading, an app we tried out. Andrew frequently has tech toys that he talks about, and something funny about the kids, or just something that we're doing to improve our lives a little bit more on the personal side that we just like to share with you. I say that as though we're not like always just personal oversharing type people.
Yeah. Right now, the thing that came to mind is that transformer table that you helped me kind of source on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh my gosh,
and
so good.
If you have a small place like I do, it is so nice. It can it like literally folds up into like a 1-foot depth desk with a bench that does the same and tucks in nicely underneath it. But it can convert to like a 12-person table.
Yeah.
And
for that feast, we're definitely not going to have.
For that hosting of people, we're definitely not going to have, but I might use it for a puzzle at some point, and I'm very excited about that. It's been really nice to, like when the kids come over, they're able to have a space to work at, and before we really didn't have that. So super happy about it. How about you, Kat?
Yeah, I don't know if it's glimmery, but I think it's a good, like, positive thing. And I headed back to therapy this week. I moved to the Chicago area a couple months ago. And although I was in regular therapy in Michigan, a lot of therapists are state specific as far as their licenses go. So I kind of came here, moved here, and was kind of floating along for a few months. And then I realized, I really miss that. And although nothing is like acutely wrong in this moment, I think the worst time to go to therapy is like when you're in a crisis, and the best time to go is when you're kind of living your everyday life, because you build tools. And hopefully I like her. She has really good reviews online, and I don't know, it's always hard to go to someone new. So like I'm a little nervous because the last one I had for several years, and she sort of like, knew all my stuff and knew all about me. And so I kind of feel like I have to start over. So that's what's new. I'm actually feeling nerves right now. So yeah, I am nervous to go, but I still think it's a glimmer positive thing that I'd recommend anyone do.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I get the nerves. I think the easiest way of going into those situations has been to just verbal bomb it and, okay, but that's me. I mean, other people are, dig a little bit at a time. But congratulations for doing that and for sharing it, because I think it's a very real thing. I'm definitely glad I didn't go second this time in the glimmers, because it's
your transformer table is super cool though, and you got a great deal on it. These are really expensive tables, and Andrew found one on Facebook Marketplace for like a quarter of the price or something.
Yeah, it was really, really good, and you helped me clean it up and make it look good. So yeah. Definitely, thank you for sharing your glimmer, and wishing you all the best. Let me know how I can help it, as always.
Of course.
And I think that's a great place to end off. So too. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Oh, and don't forget, if you want to get that advice from your future self, head on over to 5yearyou.com/future to get signed up.
Just a reminder, we're two people on the internet. We're not doctors or anything else, but we do want to help. If you feel that you need professional medical care, please see a licensed medical practitioner.